Picture a wall taller than a 4-story building. Now stretch it 400 kilometers. That's New York to Boston and back twice over. Price tag, $12 billion. Every single inch built by hand, by machine, by sheer human will. That was 2011. This is today. And what you're about to see exists because of one unimaginable morning. This wall now stands so high that people who live behind it can no longer see the ocean from their own windows. My husband ran toward the sea that day, one survivor says. I never saw him again. Every meter of concrete along this coast was paid for in grief. But here's the twist engineers won't let go of. If this wall ever fails, it won't just fail to stop the next tsunami. It could make it deadlier. The day the ocean moved March 11th, 2011. In 3 minutes, the ocean floor shifted 50 meters. What followed was unstoppable, a rupture that displaced 500 cubic kilometers of seawater. The resulting wave crossed the entire width of Japan in just 30 minutes. This wasn't a wave in any normal sense. It was a moving black wall of water, 40 meters tall, and nothing in its path survived. In that single catastrophic hour, 90% of Japan's existing seawalls failed. Every engineer in the country took notice. The world's largest breakwater, a $1.6 billion structure, was gone in seconds. It didn't collapse from the front. Water topped it, chewed away at the unprotected back face, and the foundation simply vanished beneath it. That became the defining engineering lesson. The front isn't the vulnerability, the back is. Yet in the chaos, one story stood apart. One mayor, one wall, and 3,000 people who lived because of a decision made years earlier. That single village became the blueprint for everything that followed. Build it taller, build it smarter. Designing a wall to stop an ocean, so how do you engineer something to stand against a force that just erased entire towns? The uncomfortable truth. This new wall was never designed to survive a wave at 2011 scale. Instead, it was designed to survive smarter, using data, redundancy, and geometry the old walls never had. Here's what most people don't realize. Most of this wall is invisible. Only 14 meters show above ground. Before a single stone was laid, engineers ran the design through 200 separate computer simulations. The wall's height isn't uniform. It rises higher on exposed headlands and drops lower in sheltered bays. Each section calibrated to its own wave data, 0.440. Separate construction teams worked this project simultaneously. If even one went bankrupt mid-build, it would leave a gap in Japan's defense. So the tolerance for failure was zero. Before construction even began, survey ships drilled the seabed section by section, because no two stretches of coast sit on the same ground. Engineers identified 3 foundation types along the route: soft clay, dense sand, and hard rock, each demanding an entirely different engineering approach beneath the surface. Starting from the ruins, the first job wasn't building. It was demolition, tearing out what had failed, studying every mode of collapse, and rebuilding from that knowledge. All 400 kilometers were measured meter by meter before a single excavator broke ground. That surveying alone took months. An entire coastal pine forest was cleared to make way. Erosion matting followed every bulldozer within minutes, no exceptions. The tide gave crews only 4 hours a day of workable seabed, and every single minute was accounted for. In the clay zones, the ground couldn't even hold the weight of a bulldozer. The fix: steel road plates spreading the load so machines effectively floated above the mud. Simple, effective, crisis avoided. Right now, somewhere along this coast, crews are laying foundation 25 meters below sea level, inside the active surf zone, in the same ocean that destroyed everything a decade ago. Divers guide 5-ton boulders into position underwater, working almost entirely blind, trusting sonar data because visibility is zero. Between the boulders and the fill sits a critical filter layer. Skip it, and the wall slowly bleeds away from the inside, grain by grain, until it's hollow. After weeks of underwater work, the rubble mound finally breaks the surface. A geotextile membrane locks in place over it, silently stopping fine soil particles from migrating into the rubble. A job it will do, unnoticed, for decades. An uncompacted mound settles unevenly, and an unevenly settled foundation tilts the entire wall above it. Every single roller pass on that mound is quietly preventing a future failure. The slope angle, exactly 1 to 1.5, isn't arbitrary either. Too steep, and the boulders slide. Too flat, and the waves won't break the way they need to. Slowly, a platform is rising out of nothing inside the ocean itself, and only now does the real wall begin. Building against the backwash steel sheet piles are driven 10 meters into the ocean floor just to protect the base, the toe of the wall. Their Z-profile shape interlocks piece to piece, transferring shear force evenly across the entire structure. It's a small detail with outsized consequences, because that steel barrier isn't primarily fighting the incoming wave. It's fighting the wave rushing back out. Backwash scour, the retreating water dragging sand and stability out from under a structure, is what actually destroys foundations. If a pile driver hits a buried boulder, a 12-meter steel pile can deflect sideways and ruin the entire alignment. So crews pre-drill and crush every obstruction first, then drive the pile clean through the cleared path. 30 dump trucks run 16-hour shifts without stopping. A single breakdown stalls the entire compaction cycle. Fill goes down in 300mm lifts. No thicker, no thinner, because anything thicker means the compactor can't reach the bottom layer. Inside the wall's body, geotextile reinforcement layers act like rebar for compacted earth. Every layer must hit 98% Proctor density, or the inspector shuts the job down on the spot. Press your foot into fill compacted to that standard, and nothing moves. At 85%, your foot sinks straight through progress. Roughly 300 millimeters of wall height per day, racing an 18-month countdown to the next tsunami season. Water, concrete, and zero margin for error at the core of the wall sits a clay layer functioning as internal waterproofing. Properly compacted, it stops water from permeating through. One night of heavy rain once caused 600 millimeters of slope to slump, and the entire section had to be rebuilt from scratch. Now, a drainage pipe network runs inside the embankment, and geotextile fabric covers every exposed slope before rain. Without fail, once the wall reaches 10 meters, thousands of precast concrete panels begin arriving. This is where the project gets unforgiving. The wall is embedded with sensors, letting engineers monitor its settling and structural breathing every single day, indefinitely. Before any panel is set, the wall face must be perfectly flat. One bump creates a stress concentration point that can crack under load. 3 materials do 3 separate jobs in this system: gripping the seabed, sealing against water intrusion, and carrying structural load, together forming one integrated wall. If a 7-ton panel cracks inside its mold, it derails an entire week's production schedule. Every hairpin bar connecting a panel to the crown wall matters. Miss one, and the whole connection weakens. Self-compacting concrete flows around every bar to leave a flawless face with no honeycombing, because that surface has to withstand a tsunami's direct impact. Get the slump wrong, and the panel face honeycombs. One bad batch, and the entire day's production is scrapped. Quality control is almost artisanal. Workers tap finished panels and listen. A solid ring means good concrete. A hollow sound means that panel, worth roughly $800, gets crushed without hesitation. There is zero tolerance for defects on a tsunami wall. Transporting giants, moving 7-ton panels along narrow Japanese coastal roads requires a flagman posted at every junction, repeated across 400 kilometers of route. The bed each panel sits on must be level to within 5 millimeters. A single hump can crack the corner of a 7-ton slab, and that panel face will eventually take a tsunami impact at roughly 30 kilometers per hour and must hold for a full century. Even the smallest specks carry weight. A 400 millimeter overlap between panels sounds like a minor detail, until you picture a tsunami trying to rip each one off the wall. Rubber water stops between panels swell when wet, meaning the bigger the wave, the tighter every joint seals itself. Because straight, mass-produced panels don't fit a curved coastline. 20 millimeter gaps kept opening, letting water force through and undermine everything below. The solution: 37 unique panel shapes, each CNC machined to close every gap to zero. One curved bay, finally, sealed perfectly. At full speed, the crews complete around 400 meters of sealed wall a week, racing a 2022 deadline with 440 teams working in parallel. The crown wall's nose is angled to throw overtopping water back out to sea. One design detail protecting thousands of lives behind it. The crown grabs every panel beneath it through hairpin bar connections, turning individually stacked pieces into one seamless structure. Pump booms cap out at 15 meters reach. If a pour fails partway through, it creates a cold joint, a structural weak point that compromises the whole wall. That crown angle, exactly 10 degrees from vertical, throws overtopping water outward instead of letting it crash inward. Simple physics, elegant execution. The only ornamentation across all 400 kilometers is a stamped wave pattern in the coping stones. Engineers will keep measuring the crown wall's height for 5 years after completion, because monitoring never really stops. 6 different materials, 6 distinct engineering functions, and from the outside, it just looks like a gray wall. It isn't. What happens when water wins anyway? The back of the wall matters just as much as the front, because backface failure is exactly what killed the old seawalls in 2011. If water does top the wall, it needs somewhere safe to go. That's the job of the landward drain. The wall's built-in escape route. Along the base, 32-ton concrete tetrapods interlock with each other. If even one fails to lock in, the entire armor layer can shift in the very first storm. Each tetrapod has one leg pointing upward, designed to catch the next one placed above it. That interlocking absorbs wave energy on impact, and remarkably, these blocks aren't placed with precision. They're simply dropped, and they settle into their own stable configuration. Chaos engineered into order. The gaps between tetrapods aren't a design flaw. They're the entire mechanism. Water flows through the gaps and loses its energy in the process. 1 liter of water fully absorbed by this system, now multiply that by 50 million tons of tsunami surge, and you understand the scale of the problem being solved. There's an actual equation behind all of it, the Vandermeer formula, which takes wave energy as an input and returns the minimum armor weight required. 40 tetrapods a day roll out of the casting yard, which never stops, day or night, to armor all 400 kilometers of coastline. Below the waterline, tetrapods stack up completely out of sight. Sonar reveals what no diver could ever reach at that depth. In total, there are 3 lines of defense before the wall itself: the rubble mound, the sheet pile toe, and the tetrapod armor. By the time a tsunami reaches the actual wall, it's already lost much of its force. 0.443 doors in the wall. Every wall section undergoes wave tank testing, and some of the results have genuinely surprised engineers. Along the 400 kilometers, there are 443 gaps, river mouths, harbor entrances, roads, each one a potential death trap if its floodgate fails to seal. Floodgate concrete is poured twice as thick as standard concrete, because this is exactly where tsunami forces concentrate hardest. From alarm to fully sealed gate, 70 seconds. That's the entire window before a wave reaches the coast. Seismic sensors trigger automatic closure, no human decision required. The moment an earthquake starts, the gates begin moving. Each gate is built to punishing tolerances. 15 millimeters of clearance, 50 tons of steel installed in coastal winds up to 40 kilometers per hour, tested to 1.5 times its design pressure. If even one of the 14 seals on a gate leaks, the entire gate fails. Engineers discovered that a leak of 40 liters per minute through a 2-millimeter gap could balloon to a 20-millimeter gap under real tsunami pressure. The fix was to grind off 2 millimeters, retest, and confirm 0 leaks. 3 hours of precision machining that could save an entire town. For a rivermouth gate, a 22-meter steel curtain. The system is stored open at the top and closes purely by gravity. Even if power fails completely, the gate still comes down. Across all 443 gates, a single command room can trigger, monitor, or override every gate, sensor, and alarm on the network. In effect, the wall can think for itself. Japan drills this entire response. Every gate, every sensor, every March 11th, aiming for full closure in 4 minutes 20 seconds. Where the wall meets the mountain on cliff sections, there's no beach to build on, so the wall runs directly into bare rock. Rock bolts are driven 2 meters into basalt, drilled in coastal winds up to 50 kilometers per hour, physically anchoring the wall to the mountain itself. Concrete is then sprayed at 100 kilometers per hour, bonding to rock far more effectively than poured concrete ever could. In these sections, the cliff essentially becomes the wall. 3 materials, concrete, shotcrete, and basalt, fused into one continuous face that a tsunami hits as a single unmovable mass. Offshore, a submerged breakwater trips incoming waves 200 meters before they even reach the main coastal wall, forcing them to break early and lose power before the real fight begins. Building one of these involves sinking a 60-ton concrete box through 3 meters swells down to a depth of 63 meters. During one installation, a tug lost steerage in 30-knot winds, and the massive box drifted 8 meters off its intended mark, a reminder of just how unforgiving this work is even with modern equipment. The rebuilt Kamaishi breakwater, once complete, surpassed the very world record it was replacing. The philosophy throughout: always build back stronger than before. The numbers that prove it works. If a panel fails its strength test, the entire week's production batch goes straight to the crusher. No exceptions. Just 2 millimeters of carbonation on the surface means the steel reinforcement inside won't be exposed to sea air for at least a century. An independent inspector holds the authority to fail any section and order it demolished, regardless of schedule pressure, and 440 contractors work under that standard constantly. Some sections have already been tested against forces twice their design load, with engineers watching strain gauges hold steady well within safe limits. Across 400 kilometers in 2 years, differential settlement measured just 14 millimeters on sandy coastal ground, a result engineers call exceptional. Then came the real test. A magnitude 7.4 earthquake struck. Sensors fired instantly, and all 443 gates began closing simultaneously. When engineers inspected afterward, they found 0 cracks and 0 shifted tetrapods. For a structure this size, under a real 7.4 quake, that result is extraordinary. A wall that became a way of life today, the final pump is running on the last unfinished section. 400 kilometers, almost sealed, almost complete. A helicopter now flies the entire length of the wall, capturing footage that engineers say will change coastal defense design going forward. The staircases built into the wall aren't scenic overlooks. They're emergency evacuation routes, designed using crowd flow science to move people to safety fast. And in the years since, something unplanned happened. People started walking along the top of the wall every morning, cycling, walking their dogs, running at sunrise. What began as Japan's answer to unimaginable grief has quietly become something else entirely. A 400-kilometer promenade, a daily ritual, a wall that protects a nation and, without meaning to, gave it back a piece of ordinary life.